Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. For those of you that don't know me and this is your first time visiting and coming to my channel, my name is Precious Rutlin. I am a consulting trichologist as well as the founder and owner of the Black Women Hair Haven program. And so our mission is to educate and really train and equip the beauty professionals to holistically treat hair loss so that their clients can take preventative measures. And we are committed to reducing the incidences and devastation that hair loss brings among Black and brown women. And today, I have with me my guest, Yondel, and I'm going to have her come on and share with you all in just a few minutes about what she do. And so, but we both have a lot in common, and I really wanted to bring her on because you guys definitely have to hear her story. And she's also a former hairprenuer, so to speak. So I thought you guys would really get a kick out of just hearing her experience, some of the similarities that we went through in the hair industry and what she's doing now. So without further ado, welcome, Yondel.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Precious, and thank you everyone that is tuning in on Precious's channel today. I am Yondel, and I'm the head mom in charge over at mommyslays.com, which is a lifestyle brand. And what I do over there is I'm an empowerment jewelry designer where I create head-turning, customized pieces for women like yourself and women like Precious that tells your story and makes a statement wherever you go.
That is wonderful. Thank you. So if you guys didn't notice, that's what I was just waving in front of the camera for you all. And I guess we'll just start there. So I asked Yondel to customly make some pieces for me for my business. And it really keeps me motivated throughout my day. It just reminds me of my why. So of course my colors are in my brand colors, and she accented it for me with my charms. And I think that's my favorite part of it is the charms actually. So I had her decorate mine with the Bible and praying hands because I am a big believer in faith and love the Bible. And then I have my shears and comb, and then a purse because I love to shop. And then my favorite charm here though is having, reminding me of my business, and it's just like a win for me to know that I finally arrived. I've come, evolved to this point. And so last but not least, this is my other little charm here, if you guys can see. But this is like my trichoscope because of course I teach, the stylists and barbers now about trichology, and I still work some time one-on-one with clients. And so it's just very important just for me just to have that mental vision. And I like it, and it's very stylish. And I get people, to ask me about, because it's eye-catching, so you can't help but to notice it and ask more about it. So Yondel, can you share with them what you shared with me about how you even got into making the jewelry?
Of course. So Mommy Slays started as a passion project. So before I was doing Mommy Slays, I was doing Queens of Wigs, and we can get into that later. But I was going through postpartum depression. We go through so much alone, and I was tired of suffering in silence, and I was kind of mad at the woman in my life that did not prepare me for all that womanhood had to entail. So Mommy Slay started as a passion project where I started blogging, and I actually had a blog post that I did on XO Nicole, and the title was "What Beyonce Snapback Doesn't Teach You About C-Sections." And because I just had a C-section, and I'm like, what is this? And I'm Queen Bey fan all day, y'all. So Beyhive, don't come for me. I love me some Beyonce. But I was a little bamboozled because I never thought that, first, I never imagined having to have a C-section. And then second, it was just like a huge shock to me when I had it, and the recovery process, I never thought it would be that hard. And so that led to postpartum depression. And I just wanted this space, a safe space for women to be transparent. And I didn't know how I was going to profit from it. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew I had to do it. You know, when you know you just have, it's a calling and you have to do it. And so I started that. And that was 2017 when my son was born. And not until 2020 is when it took off. Like, I've always been a crafter. I want to say the summer of 2020, the summer of 2019, I started making like earrings with cute little statements on it. But the height of, I call it Rona, the height of the pandemic, when schools were shutting down, because I was a school teacher too, guys, and something in my spirit was like, I was looking at all these craft supplies I bought, and it was like, just bead. And I started beading, and I haven't stopped since. And it just took off from there. I just started posting it on Facebook. A coworker told me to bring some of the pieces to the school that I was posting in my stories. And she was like my first client. She bought some, and I didn't take it that seriously. She was like, where do you post these? And I'm like, on Facebook. She's like, you don't have a website? And so instantly I'm like, oh, let me go do a website. And it just took off from there. And then it clicked, because all this time I'm like, okay, how do I explain Mommy Slays to people? How do I go deeper? How can I profit from this? And everything just came together. And I'm like, okay, this is beautiful.
That is wonderful. And I'm so glad that you were able to recognize your gift and be able to bring us that experience. And kind of how me and you got to talking when we were crafting my piece here. Me and you got to talking about hair. And so can you just talk about, I guess, like why you even stopped making wigs and you made your transition to the jewelry? Because like, if you hadn't said anything to me, I wouldn't have never known. So I thought that was really cool that we had, you know, the wigs and the hair in common.
Yes. So fresh out of college, so around 2009, around the time, or 2008, remember the Tyra show, guys? I used to be hooked to the Tyra show, and I was graduating college, and we started talking about lace wigs. And I have always been a weave queen. I love me wigs. I love extensions, all of that. And so I was determined to figure, I wanted a lace wig. And then I saw the price of a lace wig at the time. And crazy me was like, oh, I'm gonna learn how to make a lace wig. And if anybody that making a lace wig is no joke. I'm not talking about these machine wigs that you guys see, the frontals and the closure pieces. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a full lace wig where you are pulling that hair through the net strand by strand. So I kind of self-taught myself. Then I did a class or two in the wig industry. I've even learned from celebrity stylist Hadia Barbel. I don't know if you guys heard. She used to be Wendy Williams' former wig designer.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I love Hadia. I did classes with her, and it was just something I just took off with it. I personally love wigs. I'll always be a wig lover. But the industry that I learned very quickly, maybe I was naive at the time because I was fresh out of college, that the industry could be very catty at the time. And everything was so hush hush and so secretive. And wig designers at the time were not getting the credit that they deserve. Like nobody was saying, oh, shout out to my wig designer. Wig designers were not given credits. It was just somebody else would be designing the wig, and maybe the hairstylist would be applying it, but the hairstylist got the credit, but not that person making the wig. It was different than what it is today. And I'm proud that it's different. I'm proud that it's evolved. But going through that, it was hard. And I had to do a lot of education, like educating people about the benefits of these wigs, the purpose of the wig. So a lot of my clients, they did have alopecia, and that opened up my mind because I didn't know about alopecia until I started creating wigs. And I really had to get educated because at first when I started saying, oh, I'm going to create wigs, a lot of people in my family and my circle would be like, oh, you need to sell to the cancer patients. And I had to educate them. And I'm like, yes, cancer patients lose, but there's other people that lose hair too. And I tend to the alopecia family. I even learned about, what is it called? TTM, trichotillomania.
Yeah, trichotillomania. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I learned about that. And I'm so grateful for my journey. But honestly, Precious, I just started getting tired because I had my second kid, and making those wigs, it takes a lot. And I did eventually start making the closures and the frontal pieces because those were more economical at the time. For a lot of my clients, and I outsourced, which was a hard thing for me to do. I want to be transparent on that. And I wrote ebooks on this, but it was hard for me to decide to outsource. It was just something special about me making them by hand, the full lace. But the reality is I'm one person, and it took me like 30 hours, I think, just to make one wig, versus outsourcing it for a factory overseas to do it. And so I had to really learn, like, okay, you know the skill. And I had to tell myself, does Vera Wang make all of her dresses for her dress line that's in Kohl's or whatever store? No, that's not what designers do. They're behind the design and picking out the product, but they're not making every single thing. So it just got really tiring, and I live in a very conservative state. I live in the woods in Connecticut. So people, it's not like I'm in Cali or New York where people are going to pay all this money for hair. People just wanted the regular 12-inch. I couldn't get as creative as I can get with the pieces, my beaded pieces. People just wanted the same thing, jet black or 1B, everything, not even. Like, I like kinky. And I remember one time I tried to do a kinky line and they were looking at me like, we don't want that. So I just didn't feel, I got to a point where I wasn't feeling like my true authentic self with the wig. Since I started so young, I felt like I had to be over professional and I couldn't show all the sides of me. So that's when I started stepping into Mommy Slays, and I'm like, I gotta be transparent. I gotta be real with y'all. So I let the wigs go. It was really hard. My husband was looking at me like I was crazy. People still coming to me to always sending me wig stuff, always saying, oh, we waiting for you to come out of retirement. I love it. I had one good friend though, and I appreciate her advice. And that's why it's important to have good people in your circle. And she's like, you will forever be the queen of wigs. Like, that's the brand you created. So she's like, it's okay if you're not going to do any wig, but I want you to know, and you need to own that you establish that brand. You will that's forever who you are. So it is a part of me, and it's a part of my brand. I'm rocking a wig right now. So like, it's a part of my brand. Like, you'll see me on Instagram. I'll talk about my wigs all the time, but it's just not my main thing anymore.
Yeah, and I totally get it. And that's how I think me and you can end up spending over hours just talking, about, coming out of school and then just having to have that experience in the industry where people weren't willing to, share information or about how they're making their business work because they're scared that you're going to come along or steal their clients, or you going to do better than them, or they just want to keep it a secret. And so that is what was one of the reasons that drove me towards hair loss, because I learned really quick that in the hair industry, especially when you get out of school and you're trying to find a salon to go work in, and you want to go in with an open mind and be a good team player, but some of the other women don't look at you like that. They don't want to share, techniques or styles. And it's like, okay, where do I fit in? So I eventually gravitated towards hair loss because eventually, unbeknownst to me, I ended up experiencing hair loss. Wow. And so that's how I was able to get into this business. But the other reason that drives me is that, one, this is also needed. And, you know, as a stylist, as a barber, you have to always stay abreast in your skills, but it's like hair loss isn't going anywhere. And so the brand that I've created today in the business, I wanted to make sure that no stylist or barber has to ever feel like they don't have a community to go to because no one wants to share with them information so that they can, you know, be successful, and that we're all in this together, because we all have the same mission. We all want to help everyone, you know, save these hair follicles, or just like you want to lift a woman's spirit up through her true, you know, her true beauty and her essence. And your particular gift is through, you know, making us jewelry, where it used to be making wigs. And so for me, that is the community that I'm creating now. And I definitely wanted to just have you on, just so, one, to definitely inspire those that are still finding their way in business. Some may even be pivoting. You may have had a Yondel story where, hey, you were cold in the hair business, but now you kind of want to pivot and do something else for whatever reason. But if nothing else, during your transformation, you're gonna need some bling. You're gonna want to stand out and then have that transformation. So I definitely want to bring Yondel on so she can share with you her gift. If you guys are interested, go into her website. You can, and it's not just for business owners. She also services everyone. She also has you know, basic jewelry for the men, the women. So Yondel, while I'm on that, why don't you just go ahead and share with the audience where they can go visit your site so they can get their own bling?
Sure. So my site is mommyslays.com. So you could visit the site. Make sure you subscribe to the site so that you could get discounts and you'll be the first in the know, because everything that I create, like Precious said, it's not just for brands. Her piece is branded bling, but I do create pieces for like everyday wear for people that like to stand out, but they're exclusive. I don't create two of the same pieces. So sometimes I always give people the heads up to join the newsletter list on the site. You guys could also visit me on Instagram at Mommy Slays as well. And on Facebook, I have a community, and I do want to talk a little bit about community if you have time.
Yes, Precious. Please.
I have a community which means so much to me. They're my Slay sisters, or my stack sisters, we call it, because we call the stacks, we call them Slay stacks. Yes. And so I say the Slay stacks, the bracelets, they bring us together, but the sisterhood keeps us together. So it's a small knit community. It's a safe space on Facebook. It's called the Stack Sisters Club. So that's a few places where you can definitely connect with me online. But I love going back to community. I like how you have created a safe space. You have created a community for hairstylists, barbers who need it, because it is needed. It is lonely when trying to get to the top. And so it is needed somebody or a place to be with like-minded people to be surrounded by. So I'm very grateful for that. And something else I want to say, I think all industries have their sense of cattiness, because and I don't want that to deter anyone, because I even experienced it right before my beads took off. Somebody that I looked up as a mentor, she would share a lot. She had her own community. I would put my pieces in there and it was like I would get crickets. Nobody would say nothing. And then I followed her. And when I followed her and she noticed that my pieces were getting traction on my Facebook page, she kind of tried to get catty and be like, oh, you're copying me. And I'm like, charm bracelet? Like, first of all, we have to take that mentality out of nobody can copy you. Like, there's only one you. And we should not be trying to copy people, period. Like, we all think differently. We do think things differently, and people buy from us because they know, like, and trust us. They resonate with us. Like, it's just you have a secret sauce. Everybody does. And I just had such great respect in my head. I'm like, my pieces will never look like your pieces, because her pieces were like gorgeous, guys. Just her color theory, everything. And I still complimented her through it all, but that was my wake-up call. Like, okay, there's always going to be some cattiness before you have a breakthrough. And I considered quitting at that point, because who wants to be called a copycat? That's something, I'm an original. So right. It's just like, it really had me down for a while. But if I had quit, I never would have taken off. I never would have met Precious. I never would have met so many amazing women. I never would have had my community. There's so many. So think about that. Go back to your why, on why you do this, or the people that you need to serve and the people that you need to help. Always keep that at the forefront. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows in business, but definitely make sure you are in the right community and with the right people, because they will build you up. So I'm grateful that you have that, because I wish I had a genuine community like that when I was doing wigs.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll just piggyback off of what Yondel just brought up, because she brought up a great point. And even for me, as I mentioned earlier, in the hair industry, like I said, there's so many stylists, and it's like, okay, well, where do I find myself? Where do I fit in? Because I just knew that I was interested in healthy hair. Like, I'm not into all the big fancy hairdos, but I know I can grow your hair and I can keep it healthy. That I can do. And so when I was going through my trichology program through Dr. Carrie Williams, that was one of my concerns with her. I had completed the program and I was just honest and blunt with her. And I looked her in her face and I said, Dr. Carrie, I was like, how do I stand out among stylists? And I just told her, I said, I feel some type of way, because even when I go to make, I guess, or build a community with other stylists, they look at you, think you're trying to take their clients. And I was like, I'm a person that likes to share information, and I always like to learn things. And she pointed out to me that day, and ever since she said that, like, it has always stuck with me. And she was like, Precious, no one can be like you. And she was like, you're the one that's been to pioneer this thing and set the bar. And when she was talking to me, it just started clicking in my head. And she was like, Precious, if you ever find yourself around, other stylists and they feel like they're in competition with you, then they're not, aligned with you, and you don't have to stay in that group. She was like, you just continue to be you. And, she's like, the stylists and the barbers, that they'll come to you, and those are the ones that are supposed to be in your community. And she was like, Precious, the world is very abundant. There's more than enough for everyone. And as she was just talking, I began to just accept that belief system. And I was like, she's right. There is enough for everyone. And so it definitely is a mindset shift. And just like Yondel said, nobody else can be you. You can't be anybody else. We have our own DNA, so to speak.
Yeah, so true. And it truly is a mindset thing. It's mindset over everything. Like, we have to learn to shift that negative energy into something positive, and you have to just stay surrounded by positivity constantly when being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So that's all the time that we have right now. So Yondel, do you want to go ahead and drop your social media handles and things again before we wrap up?
Sure. So you guys can check me out at mommyslays.com. You could come over on Instagram and say, hey girl, hey, at Mommy Slays. And on Facebook, you could join our community at the Stack Sisters Club on Facebook. And that's Stack Sisters, STACK space SISTAS Club on Facebook.
Absolutely. So thank you all for tuning in, and you guys know where you can find me. You can find me on YouTube at Precious Rutlin Consulting, also on Instagram at Precious Rutlin. And for those of you that want to keep up, you want to learn more about hair loss or just build your business, stay in the forefront and build a sustainable business, then definitely visit blackwomenhairhaven.com for more information. Okay, guys, take care.